then we got to get this team playing a little better together. But it's a young team, and it seems like you plug one hole and there's another. And so what we just got to do is keep grinding, keep working.
The Vandal men finally pull off a close game at home. Don Berlin tells us whether his team is turning a corner. And the Idaho women red hot off to their best conference start since the early 80s. And John Newley thinks the best is yet to come. Inside the Vandals, next. Hey, welcome to Inside the Vandals. I'm Tom Purvis. He's Joey Jenkins. We're going to be covering men's and women's basketball throughout the remainder of the season. Joey, we heard from Coach Verlin right there. This is a young team. They've struggled. They were 0-5 at home at the Cowan Spectrum here. Coming into this game, got a big win against Bakersfield. Do you think they're starting to get their feet under them a little bit more?
Well, what they did against Cal State Bakersfield, that should be the blueprint. They go great from the free throw line, 6 for 6 from the foul line in the last 20 seconds. They get a couple of big threes. And finally, we've seen the Idaho men's team win a close game when a lot of the late times it hasn't been that situation.
You talk about free throws. Is that the biggest reason, would you say, that this team hasn't been able to get it done on the home floor? And Coach Verlin has talked about these losses there. He says, quote, rip your heart out losses by 3 points. Would you say free throws have been the biggest reason for this team? They haven't won?
Sure, free throws. I mean, and that's the thing. And I would say late free throws, late when it's crunch time in the last 2 minutes, that's something the Vandals would struggle with. But it was nice to see what they did on Saturday night to get that win.
Now, let's talk about the women's basketball team a little bit. Joey, they're 6-0 right now in conference. The last time they had this good of a conference start was 1981-82, so we weren't even born. I'm pretty sure I'm older than you, and I was born in 86, so they weren't born, or we weren't born yet. How good is this team right now? How good can they be?
Well, it's the way that they've won these games. We're talking about that 50-point victory earlier on in the season. They're shooting lights out. They're fantastic from the field. They're making their three-pointers. And right now, in the WAC conference, sky's the limit.
Yeah, this team defensively, they've been there defensively all season. From the very beginning of this season, they showed they had a good defense. They held Cal to 55 points. They lost that game, unfortunately. But now they've started to get the wheels turning on offense. They shot 58% against Bakersfield. And like you say, then they've been blowing teams out by 30. I mean, people are starting to wonder, can this team run the table? You don't want to get ahead of yourself here, but such great possibilities for this team.
Well, I can tell you, if they keep shooting the way they can, you could see them running the table. Meanwhile, we talked about the men, and I spoke with Don Verlin about the men's situation against the big game and the big win over Bakersfield, and we'll talk about what he had to say on the season. Well, Coach Verlin joins us now on Inside the Vandals, and Coach, another couple close games this past week. Maybe that's not a surprise. We've seen that a lot. But you get your first home conference win against Cal State Bakersfield. That's a big one.
Yeah, no question about it. It's always good to win in the Dome or in the Spectrum, and it was good to beat a good Cal State Bakersfield team, and to get our first home conference win was something we desperately needed.
I do have fingernails left. We have had a lot of nail biters, a lot of close games, and let's talk about that. I mean, obviously, you can go back to Washington State, the game against you had against Chicago State, obviously the win against Bakersfield, the double overtime against Texas Pan American. As a coach, going through that process, having close game after close game, some you win, some you lose, what's the benefits of that for a team to go through kind of all those nail-biter games and the drawbacks of that as well?
Well, there's a number of things. First of all, the benefits are is you get used to playing in close games, and usually towards the end of the season, and especially in the conference tournament, it's going to come down to some close basketball games. The drawbacks are when you lose them because they rip out your heart, no question about it. And then you probably make more adjustments or make a bigger deal out of 1 or 2 plays than you would the entire game. And so I think that's the drawbacks of that is that you 1 or 2 plays make the difference in a game. And what we got to do is focus on playing 40 minutes.
Let's talk about Bakersfield, because those 1 or 2 plays and down the stretch you get it done. 6 for 6 in the last 20 seconds from the foul line. You have Mike Scott hit a big 3. You have Connor Hill hit a big 3. The difference in that, in actually winning a close game opposed to some that you've lost, is that just the players stepping up on the court, or is that something you work through the week and it's a difference you see in practice?
Well, a little bit of both. We always work late game situations, and it was nice, like you said, to see Mike Scott make 2 big free throws. Perrion Calderette, who we subbed in late in the game, made 2 big free throws, and then Steven Madison made a couple. We had some guys step up and make big shots, but it comes first and foremost to execution. You have to execute your plays to get those shots, and we did a good job job of that. And then you got to make some plays as a player, and we had a number of guys step up and make their free throws and make big plays to give us the win against Bakersfield.
Talk about Mike Scott. He comes in, obviously, more minutes from the injury to Glenn Dean. Career night against Bakersfield with 20 points, 6 assists. He's done well at not really turning the ball over. Is this a player that you've seen this coming, a big night for him scoring-wise?
Well, Mike's a good basketball player, no question about that, and I've expected big things from Mike, and we're still working through a lot of things with this new team with 10 new guys, and the thing I was probably most pleased about in this game was, and the entire weekend, was Mike really stepped up and played when Glenn was hurt. Like you said, 11 assists, 2 turnovers, did a good job. And yeah, Mike's a good player. It's what I expect from Mike Scott, and I hope it continues.
Let's talk about, you mentioned the 10 new guys. I mean, if you looked at the roster last year, you look at the roster this year, you're going to have to know a lot of new faces and a lot of new names. And you talked earlier on, when we've had you on before, about kind of adjusting and getting everyone on the same page. You even talked about it after the Bakersfield game about playing together. How has that process been from when you first started back before the season began to now?
Well, it's getting better. No question about it. It never happens as quickly as you want, and that's where your frustration comes in. But it's getting better. I think our offense is getting better. Our assist-to-turnover ratio is getting better. And it's just going to take time, and I think our guys are hanging tough and battling every possession and every night out. I thought they came out with great energy on Saturday night versus Bakersfield. And what I keep teaching to myself and my staff is patience. Is if we'll stay patient with them and keep teaching them, keep coaching them, good things will happen.
Do you expect more out of guys like Steven Madison and Connor Hill, having been with this team before, been with this program before, to step up, or do you just let leaders kind of naturally step out?
Well, you obviously need your leaders to step up, and Steven's had a great senior year. I mean, when you're averaging 17 and 8 a game, he's played remarkably well and had to do a number of things for us, plays 2 or 3 different positions during the course of a game. I've been really happy with Steven Madison's play. Connor Hill has really started to shoot the ball better lately. We've done a lot better job of getting him the ball in the places where he can score his basketball. So yeah, your seniors have to step up, but then your new guys got to step up. They got to find their role, they got to find how they can help this team, and they got to do it.
As you look at this part of the schedule, you have the next 3 out of 4 right here on your home court. Before the season began, as you looked at the conference schedule, is this part that you got the highlighter out and you said, okay, this is a nice stretch for us to be at home and try to get some big wins?
Well, I never looked that far in advance. Our motto here is one game at a time, and it is going to be nice to have 3 games at home, but we got to go to Grand Canyon first, which is going to be a tough game because they're playing very well. But what we try to do is focus in on one game, take that game, make the adjustments we need to do, make the corrections we need to make from that game, and get ready for the next game. And hopefully every week, every day, we can get better.
And that next game is Grand Canyon. We'll take a timeout, and when we come back, we'll talk about the trip that the Vandals will make to the warm weather of Phoenix to take on Grand Canyon when Inside the Vandals returns.